Hi, it's Paulie here. Wee unicorn juice. So, I've got bad news. According to the game that I'm going to go over here, in 2000, the American federal government moved to nationalise the dwindling supplies of oil and gas. By 2020, most large cities were completely abandoned and only a few fortress towns remained. 2022 Supreme Court decision decriminalised manslaughter in game arenas. Death sports become popular. Yes, fantastic. It's Car Wars. Yay! So, yes, this was published in 1981, and we were quite convinced at the time that, petrol was running out. It was going to go. So this is the game of that. It's the kind of Mad Max-inspired fun. This is a classic. Millions of copies of it have been sold. There's a huge player base for this. Now, this is very much sort of one of the original formats, a small box game. They kickstarted a 6th edition, which is really this written large and pretty and shiny. But I will always value these smaller games because they're portable and they've got everything you need. So, paper rulebook, fantastic. Paper maps, and some record sheets. Yay! Tons of counters of cars. Yay! Dice, and most importantly, a cool little turn circle and maneuver guide. So, what this is, for those of you who don't know, and many younger watchers won't. So this is a game of dueling cars. It did expand out and eventually covered flyers and ultralights and hovercraft and boats, but in essence, Car Wars. So the idea is it's around about 2040, and yes, food shipments and things going between cities are on armoured trucks and so on. Gangs in armoured converted cars with machine guns and bombs and rockets and flamethrowers and all that cool stuff in them are trying to hijack those or just running areas. People form vigilante groups and professional fighter groups to keep them out. Meanwhile, there's kind of arena sports where people dogfight in cars, etc. In other words, you get to drive around cars and fire at people with machine guns. Very, very, very cool. This is a great game. It's got really good bones. This is kind of what Steve Jackson was best at, coming up with a good, simple, solid game that had lots of potential for development. So, why I think this game survives and remains a living system and played is because it's damn good fun and it's pretty simple. So what you've got is, first off, you want to design a car. So they've got a very nice system. You pick different frames. So you could have a subcompact, you could have vans, trucks, there are tricycles and motorcycles, if you're insane. And these things have a certain number of spaces on the inside. You then attach power plants and so on. You attach armour to the different facings, front, rear and sides. You can choose your wheels, what type they're going to be. They can be normal inflatable tyres, they can be semi-solid, they can be solid. You can put armour protectors on them. You can do other sort of handling characteristic things to make the cars better. And then you can use remaining points for putting weapons and so on. Also, crew take up space. You can put body armour on the crew to make them sort of more able to survive any hits that get through. When you fire, you're essentially taking damage points off the armour on different sides. If it gets through, depending on whether you've gotten through from the front or sides, you will damage different interior systems, depending on whether, for instance, the engine's in the front or the back, whatever. But if you hit characters, you can kill the characters. Obviously, they're a bit tougher if they've got body armour. It's a very simple system. Combat runs off D6s. The damage tends to be simple dice rolls with bonuses added. There's some little surprises in there, people would forget that if you're hit by something that sets you on fire, like a flamethrower or a Molotov cocktail or what have you, you roll each turn to see if the car is actually basically on fire, as opposed to just got some fire on it. The fire's in there and the thing's actually ablaze. If it's ablaze, you are very screwed. You have to roll to see if you survive. But if you've got things like flamethrowers or rockets or explosives and grenades and so on in the car and it's on fire, there's a very good chance it's going to just blow up and kill everyone in it. So, you know, sometimes setting someone on fire is a great way of getting their car to chase off, and it's a nice sort of simple little tactical system there. But I think what really works with this and what made it so fun is the movement system. It's played on a square grid, which is, you know, in some ways is an odd choice, but, you know, stay with us. They've got this very nice system for choosing maneuvers and handling. So what happens is, after you've designed your car, it will have a handling rate. If you've pigged this thing up with 400 tons of armor and lots of weapons and so on, it probably doesn't handle very well. At the start of a turn, you actually roll for all of the drivers, and there's a chance that their reactions are really good for this turn, and they get a couple of extra handling points. But you have a speed that you're traveling at, and that will give you a number of squares that you cross. You can accelerate or decelerate by a set amount each turn. You can decelerate more, but it's not safe. Every single thing you do removes handling from the handling rating of the car. Once that handling rating gets to 0, you have to start to roll to see if you keep control of the car. And depending on what you were doing at the time you lost control, that gives you a crash chart that you roll on to see what the results were. But what feels really good about this is the way the maneuvers work. So you can drift where the car kind of keeps going the same way, but you're just kind of drifting lanes, which everyone's done in a car. It feels nice, but that's a nice feel. You can, there's a bend where you're actually like turning the car. There's a swerve where you're actually kind of fishtailing out more. Then you've got very specific things you can do. You can deliberately fishtail the car around. You can do a T-stop where you turn that fishtail into, you know, you run the car sideways to try an emergency stop. You might have to do that because someone might have thrown mines or something all over the road, or what have you. You can try the old bootleg reverse. But some of these, like if you ran out of handling points and really screwed the roll and you were going fast, you might end up rolling the car, which is of course no fun. There are collision rules in this. The faster you go and the more solid the object you bang into, obviously the more damage you take. If you bang into a small sapling, you'll only take as much damage as the thing you hit has hit points, basically. So if you run into a sapling, it's a 4 hit point sapling, bing! It can only do 4 points to you. If you run into the side of a bridge, then it's good night Marie. So that very simple handling system actually has a great feel as you're like swerving around and fishtailing around to try and get on someone's tail, and suddenly he throws himself sort of into a T-stop to try and let you overshoot, and stamps the old foot down and comes after you. And the design possibilities are fun. Everyone sits and tries to cook up their ultimate vehicle. You have essentially a budget. You try and put what you think is going to be the perfect combo in there, and we've had some funny ones. You know, some people just came up with, let's just take a van or a truck and just put firing ports in it, and we'll have lots of guys. We'll hire a bunch of yahoos with rifles, and or we'll have guys with pintle machine guns, so this thing just fires out to all sides. Or we're going to like have concentrated stuff that the driver fires out of his front arc, or we can put turrets on it. They're not quite as accurate, but you know what the hell, ping ping. Dropping all kinds of stuff so people behind you can run into mines or caltrops or whatever. This was beautifully supported. There was a magazine, Autoduel Quarterly, which you can find collected on their sites, and they also have some other system support where we got ADA Road Atlas and Survival Guide and so on, which have lots of extra equipment you get for cars, design stuff, different systems for drives and all these kinds of things. So it's beautifully supported on their website. There's a ton of things to do. It's a great campaign game. It's a great beer and pretzels game. It's enormously good fun at conventions. You can upscale it. Grids are really easy to do, so you can make, instead of using counters, you can essentially, get some dinky toy cars, and you can have fun, putting guns and slabs of armor and so on them, and so you've actually got a miniatures game in there. So this is great stuff. It's still out there. They're still publishing it in bright, shiny new forms, new editions. It's a great game. If you used to play this back in the way back when, I think you'll remember it with much love and joy. If you've never seen it, give it a try. It really is damn funny. There's kind of like a role-playing aspect to it that these survival guides and so on bring in, so you can actually do kind of role-playing games and so on in the setting. So it's great stuff. Living game, a fun game, and really glad to see it's a survivor. So yeah, get out there and give it a shot. Cheers!